So I'll talk a little bit about that as we're talking about our sales excellence. The other two things I want to touch on in a sales development culture or in a sales training coming at you today is this idea of DXP and conceptual selling. Now, conceptual selling is a nice highfalutin word that's been bantered around back and forth. DXP, we've redefined conceptual selling a little bit differently. One, there's a premise, and that premise is that people buy for their own reasons and not yours. So people buy for their own reasons, and so when we're out there, if it's an MROP solution set that we're trying to articulate, if we're trying to tell the story about why we're better than the competition, understand that people are going to buy for their reasons. Now granted, as you're listening or watching this video and you're saying to yourself, but my manager, but my boss, but my branch, but my region has put a lot of pressure on me. I've got to produce, I've got to produce, I've got to produce. We understand that. People buy for their own reasons and not necessarily the reasons that you want to sell them something. And so we'll talk a little bit about how you develop that trust and rapport. The second premise is in conceptual selling, it's focused on the customer's perception of their situation. The challenge here as a professional sales rep at DXP is if it's focused on the customer's perception, then we've got to get on the other side of the desk. And we've got to see what the customer sees, which requires time, which requires trust, which requires rapport, a little bit of honesty, so that we're not the guy that comes out there just like all the other sales reps. You see, the situation might be considered a problem or a challenge. It might be. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a big enough problem or challenge. It just might be. And that situation might be an internal struggle for power, not solving the current problem. You see, part of what we do in sales when we're uncovering opportunities is we're trying to define, is there a problem? And as we're looking at that problem, is it worth solving? And is it worth solving by who we are? Or is it a problem that they are totally aware of and they're just kind of playing with you to validate the fact that, yes, this is a problem, but I have no intention of fixing it. I just need more people to validate that this is a problem. So what we're trying to do in conceptual selling, which is different than this idea of a product sale, it's more of a solution sale, is it takes time to nurture relationships. The third premise is that our goal in conceptual selling is to understand what the customer is trying to fix, what the customer is trying to avoid, what the customer is trying to automate. Once we understand it, we can offer solutions. And so we have a sales process at DXP, which I'll share in a little bit, about how we go about that process of understanding, how we go about trying to create connectivity, if you will, trust and rapport, so that we understand, is the customer trying to fix something, trying to avoid something, trying to automate something? What is it that the customer is trying to do? Because if they're not trying to do anything, then we're wasting our time. And if you feel you're wasting your time, you need to get with your manager to validate that, to make sure that maybe this is not the customer you need to spend time with. Maybe there's another customer out there who is a little bit more worthy of your expertise. So this conceptual selling is all about people buying for their own reasons. And so let me kind of explain and expand on how we might do that with what we call impact selling. At DXP, we've partnered with another group called the Brooks Group out of the Carolinas to talk about this. And very quickly, it helps our salespeople to focus if they know that there is a process that they can manage. And the first thing is the I in impact is to investigate. Off to the side, I say it's to prospect. And I know some of you who have joined DXP have a book of business that you brought with you, and I appreciate that. And so your prospecting will happen inside your accounts to let other people within that company know about DXP. Maybe you're new at DXP. Maybe you're in a new region. Maybe your task is to break open a new territory, to break open new customers, to go out there and basically to boldly go where no DXP person has gone before. Now, how do you do that? Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to prospect. You have to investigate. You have to make sure that you've got a customer model in front of you. The second one is the M for meet. To get that first impression, the ability to meet with that customer, the ability to connect with that customer face to face, belly to belly, to understand their needs. But you know, we can't do everything on the phone. We actually have to physically get out there, meet those customers, and have that first impression. And the DXP first impression is that we're experts in customer-driven MROP solutions. And so the impression that we convey to the customer is that, one, we're experts, that we're customer-driven, that we have a solution set defined as MROP. And that helps the customer say, you know what, I'm not wasting my time with you. You actually add more value than I thought you might do in a business development prospecting environment. Tell me more. Then we go the whole probing thing or the whole qualifying thing. The idea is that the art of asking great questions. We're building trust and rapport with these customers. Brand new. Maybe it's application driven from a pumping solution. Maybe it's a supply chain services opportunity. Maybe it's an innovative pumping solution opportunity where we're looking at different things. Depending upon what it is, our ability to qualify is our ability to ask questions or to probe. To find out, is there a fit between what we have and what you're looking for? Is this the right time to look for that fit? Maybe we're just trying to get to know each other. In sales, you'll know what that means. In fact, if you don't know what that means, you can call me, you can talk to your manager, you can try to get that information. But we have lots of different ways we can probe for understanding. Understand that we're trying to prospect the right customers, then have that phenomenal first impression, then move on into this qualification stage where at that point in time, I just want to know more about you, Mr. Customer. I don't even know if I can sell you anything yet. I don't even know if I can solve your application. I don't know if I can repair your rotating equipment. I don't know if I can meet the demand of what you're looking for in a new bearing vendor. Don't know yet, but I need to ask a couple of questions. Then I can move into this application or the applying or the demonstrating stage, where once I know a little bit about where you're going at, Mr. Customer, I can then kind of complement with some of the things that we have. If we don't do it in that order, we're going to have some confusion. Followed by this conviction stage. Now, I haven't asked for the order yet, haven't even found out if that's the right time to do that. But you've told me what's going on in your company, and I've told you a little bit about DXP. I think there's a fit between the two of us, and I need to convince you in our impact model that there is a fit between us, and then I need to tie that up. However, I need to tie that up, whether I tie that up with an order, the completion of a credit app, the demonstration of something, maybe a couple of samples, whatever that would be. I'll expand on that right quickly. When we're talking about that investigation stage, that's the phase where the prospects are identified. We've got detailed background information gathered, and there's a strategy. Whether you're strategizing with your manager or with your branch, because sometimes if you're new to DXP, your branch knows a lot of the customers within your area. Maybe they don't. Maybe you're bringing something net new into the equation. And so the strategy is, who are these people? What are their needs? What do you think we might be able to accomplish here? What problems might they have that we might be able to fix? And from there we go on into that face-to-face meeting. Whether we bring them into our branches or we either go out there, whether it's a lunch appointment, whether it's a lunch and learn, whether it's a vendor-sponsored event, whatever we want to do, we want to get a chance to meet those people, to develop that, to start developing that trust and rapport. Get that sales call in motion. Then we can actually start asking questions. That questioning, the detailed needs analysis, discovery of what they need. Where do you buy from? Why? Why do you buy from them? What conditions? Tell me more. And you're really kind of curious about what's going on when you can. You can't ask every question to every customer and get the same answer. You've got to understand, based on your expertise within the industry or your newness within DXP, what would work for you. And then we talk about the application stage. We've learned about them. It's different from the traditional demonstration. We allow our sales professional to apply their product knowledge. Understand here what I mean by when I say that prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. Application before qualification is amateur. And the idea is that we get so excited about some of the products and services that we sell because, as you've seen from our line card, there is a lot of product and service that we sell. Now, all we want to do is just kick down the door and tell everybody all the wonderful things that we can sell them because we somehow stumbled upon their warehouse and we saw boxes from our competitors and we saw all these things, and all we want to do is just talk. Not at DXP, not as a sales expert in sales excellence. We're asking questions, we're gathering information, and we might make a recommendation that we might have a solution set for them. And so we want to make sure that we understand the qualification stage prior to the application stage. Conviction or the convincing is what people believe enough they act upon. Salespeople build more value while customer builds belief in you. You see, here's where we set ourselves apart. Been in business since 1908. National footprint, local presence, expertise, resources galore. Our customers and our prospects have to sense that in our voice. They have to sense that in the way we stand, sit, carry ourselves. because it's true. People wouldn't be with us for as long as they have been with us. We wouldn't have survived world wars and Great Depressions and recessions and all the different changes in all the different economic and political climate if we weren't convinced that what we have is better than anything else out there. And the customer needs to see that. They need to sense that from us. And what people believe enough, they act upon. If I believe that you have my best interest, I'll act upon that. If I believe you've done a great job on trying to qualify me and then recommend some things, then I'm convinced that I can stay on the sales equation just a little bit longer. And then we go to tie it up. We ask the customer to buy from us, respond to an objection, handling the details of the order, whether it's a pump repair, whether it's a fabrication, whether it's bringing in a supply chain services team, whether it's a simple commodity change where I used to buy from X and now I'm buying from you, whatever it is, that's that tying up stage. Closing is the next logical step at the customer's pace. We've got to understand that when we're closing here, and you'll learn this in sales if you don't already know that we've got to go at the customer's pace, because remember, we're customer driven. If the customer's not ready to place that order yet, what's the next logical step? If the customer's ready to place the order, what's the next logical step? For those of you who are new to DXP, we want to make sure that the customer has credit, which means they have to have a credit application. You don't want to be able to sell them something if they can't finance it. That might be the next logical step. You might want to find out what their min-maxes are, what their typical spend would be before you commit to stocking that product. Whatever it would be within your branch, within your region, within your management structure, understand that all of that tying up requires logistical execution. The worst thing that would be is you've worked so hard to move that prospect to your way of thinking, and they're convinced that you have their best interest in heart, but you don't do all of the diagnosis. Understand that customer. John Graham has this great quote, "Sales is about winning." I believe it's about winning. That's why I'm here. Sales is about winning, but winning customers who are eager to do business with you because you understand them. We have customers all over the United States in all three of our divisions, Innovative Pumping Solutions, the Service Centers, and Supply Chain Services, who are eager to do business with DXP because we understand them. You have peers within DXP, salespeople within DXP, where customers are eager to do business with them because we understand them. Because the customer won't make a decision before calling DXP just to validate that it's the right course of action, because we're eager to do business with them. We understand them and what they want to accomplish. And that goes back to our premise that we've got to not be more than just a product expert, we've got to be a business expert. We've got to really understand what those customers are doing in their businesses so that we can flex with them, that we can offer suggestions, that we can get excited and enthusiastic about where they're going. Simple rule of thumb is that the people that we sell to, people buy when and only when they perceive there's a discrepancy between reality and their desired results. Let me focus a little bit on these two ideas, reality and their desired results. There you are trying to understand the customer, and the customer listens to our story at DXP. We show them our line card. We take them to lunch. We parade them around our office. We show them some of the things that we do. But if there's no discrepancy between reality and their desired results, then they don't see a compelling reason to change. The challenge at DXP is because we have so many products and services, we have so many resources, just which one will be the discrepancy changer between reality and desired results? There's so many of them. Time. It takes a little bit of time to develop that trust and rapport, to determine where is that discrepancy. When can we make that recommendation? How can we solve that current challenge that you have? Because you've admitted to me that where I'm going and where I'm at isn't matching up and I need some help. And I'm so glad you're here, DXP, because you can help us. So that's what we're trying to portray. It isn't about the 57 closing techniques or the 97 ways to leave a proper voicemail. Y'all know that already. You wouldn't have come to DXP. We wouldn't have hired you if you didn't have that kind of level of expertise. It's a little bit more soft and a little bit more challenging, if you will, when you're connecting with people. So I bring up a suspension bridge analogy. Here's where we're at. We're on one side of the gap. The customer's on the other side of the gap. We've got a suspension bridge between us, and we're somewhere progressing, whether we're moving the customer on our side of the gap or we're moving to their side of the gap. We have to understand the opportunity that's out there. As in we're talking about this idea of conceptual selling and using the impact model, the first thing we've got to understand, and work with your manager, work with your inside sales staff, work with your customer service manager on this one. Is there a problem worth solving? That's a tough question that you have to ask yourself. When you wake up in the morning, when you're doing your account review on a Monday, on a Wednesday, on a Friday, weekly, quarterly, however you do that, got to ask yourself the question, is there a problem that I can solve? If there's not a problem that we can solve, we're still in that process of talking to that customer. If you're convinced that there's a problem that you can solve and you've bounced that problem perhaps off of your manager, off of your peers, off of somebody else in the office, maybe you're shooting emails around. If you're convinced that there is a problem to solve, then the question is it worth solving now? Where are you at on that suspension bridge? Is the problem worth solving now? You see, I can admit to you today that I've got some problems, but I'm not willing to solve them right now. So it doesn't matter what you're selling to me, doesn't hurt enough. And so in sales at DXP, with all the products we have, with all the services that we have, with all the momentum and all the entrepreneurship that we have, we've got to go back to that customer and find out, do you have a problem and is it worth solving now? And that requires the expertise and the nuance of people management, to understand the people, to understand the products, to understand their business, and to ask the right level of questions or series of questions that would take that problem and then escalate it up to, I do have a problem, I do need to solve it now. If we both agree I have a problem and I'm not willing to solve it, we're not going to move that forward. If I have a problem and I'm willing to solve it, the question is it worth being solved by DXP? Is it worth being solved by you? 3 tough questions that you got to bounce around your branch office, bounce around your manager to find out, is there a problem? Is it worth solving? Is it worth solving right now by DXP? And the more that we can get into that idea, the more our sales will grow. And it isn't about some kind of a technique that we're using. It's the ability to identify problems or challenges or opportunities or whatever word you want to substitute there. Determine on, is that something that I want to solve now, and does DXP want to solve it? So the question I have as you're looking at your sales and as you're looking at your career at DXP is, if you found a problem and it is worth solving, ask yourself the question, if not DXP, who? Mr. Customer, you've identified we have a problem that you want to solve it now, but if it isn't DXP who's going to solve it, who would that be? And that's part of that questioning technique that you learn at DXP, to determine who else would be able to solve that. And if not now, when? If you've done the best that you've done and you've brought in resources like your manager and other vendors and other experts within the DXP organization for the resource utilization, and together you've combined all of that saying, we've determined you have got a problem, but you're now willing to tell me, I'm not willing to solve that problem right now. Okay, when? When would you like to see that? Because if you build enough trust and rapport, you've determined that I have a problem, but that's problem number 5 on my must-solve list. 4, 3, 2, and 1 are still above that. And if I built enough trust and rapport, perhaps you'll tell me what 4, 3, 2, and 1 are, and perhaps DXP and all of our resources, we have the ability to help you solve those first. You see, sometimes our customers paint us as, oh, you're just the pump guys out of Houston. Oh, you're just the safety guys out of the Midwest. Oh, you're just the bearing guys out of Denver. My problem isn't about pumps or safety or bearings. It's much larger than that. I'm spending way too much time cutting way too many purchase orders. I've got 6 vendors for the same commodity product. I don't know which one I buy from. I must be cutting about 80 to 100 checks a month on multiple orders to multiple vendors. Can you help me with that? And that's when sales turns from commodity to solution set. And that's when you at DXP have found yourself in a phenomenal organization and the ability to solve a problem that's much bigger than the commodity. And you have the resources to solve that. and you have the tenure, and you have just an incredible depth of the times that we have solved that problem over and over and over again, time and time and time again, Central, East, West Coast, we've done it all. That's why we're experts. That's why we've been here since 1908.